You're listening to the Monday Night Community Show with Daniel on BRFM.
This is the Daniel Monday Night Community Show on demand through YouTube. Thank you very much for choosing to listen to us through this method. If you'd like to keep up to date with when I add new interviews, then subscribe to this channel. We're next going to be talking live in the studio to Lauren, all as part of our regular book club book review. Our book this evening that we're going to be talking about is The Girl in the Red Coat. Lauren, as always, it's great to have you back.
Thanks for having me back, Daniel. I've been looking forward to it.
So, what's the book about?
So, The Girl in the Red Coat by Kate Hamer it's been marketed as a thriller, and it follows a story. It's based in the UK, and it tells the story of a mother and a young daughter who visit a storytelling festival. The daughter, Carmel, gets abducted at this festival, and then from then on you hear the story told from two different perspectives. So that's of Carmel and of her mother, Beth. So Carmel's wearing a red coat when she's taken, and that's reflected in the title of the novel. Without giving any spoilers away, this book takes a real turn away from any abduction tales that I've read before, and it made for a really, really interesting read. Now, I said earlier that it's been marketed as a thriller. I wouldn't necessarily agree with that, because I don't think it's sort of like a mystery thriller where you're going to piece the pieces together, because there is no way I would have had any idea that this was going to take the turn that it did. So I definitely say that it's thrilling. I wouldn't necessarily say it was a thriller, but I loved it, and I'll go more into that a bit later.
So, how was it?
I really, really enjoyed this. Having recommended it to a few people afterwards, I thought this would make an absolutely great summer read. I've had really good reviews back from the people who read it, and they said that they were totally engrossed with it and unable to put it down. I think this is for a few reasons. So the first reason, I think it's because of the multiple perspectives. So I love a book written in multiple perspectives. I like knowing something that somebody else doesn't know within the book and things like that. And the fact that, as I mentioned earlier, it's written from the perspective of Carmel, who's been abducted, and Beth, her mother. So that meant that whenever I finished a chapter written from Carmel's perspective, I had to wait another chapter of Beth's perspective before I could get back to Carmel's perspective. So that just made for a really quick read for me, because I just couldn't, there was no point where I could put it down. I was just like, oh God, I need to know what's going on all the time. And also the fact that you knew, you were able to sort of piece things together from Carmel's point of view, but you wanted to know what Beth knew and things like that. It was just really, really well brought together. I also found both perspectives were really engrossing. So there were always things being revealed that I couldn't tear myself away from. And they were both really written brilliantly. So the abduction scene from both Carmel and Beth's point of views gave me an actual stomachache. It felt so real. It felt awful. And Hamer herself writes brilliantly as an 8-year-old, and particularly as a dreamy 8-year-old, which is what Carmel is. Secondly, I think the subject matter, as I mentioned earlier, really, really is... I just couldn't stop reading about it, and it takes a turn from any other abduction stories that I'd read before. So this is a spoiler now, so if you don't want to know what sort of turn this book takes, then turn your ears off now. But the chap who abducts Carmel, he claims to be Carmel's grandfather, and he actually abducts her because he believes that she has a gift of healing people, and takes her from the UK to America to tour churches to heal. And this was a twist that was unlike anything I'd read before, and I just couldn't get my head around it, and it really interested me because it was so far away from anything that I'd ever experienced before. Finally, I think the pacing of the book kept it so enjoyable. It was really, really paced brilliantly. There was always action and things happening in every single chapter that was able to keep you going. And it's actually written sort of with each chapter starts with like the day it is. So day 2 is the day after Carmel gets abducted, and it goes all the way to sort of like day 100, day 306, and things like that from Beth's point of view. So you're with her the whole time, and I just feel like it was great. I really, really enjoyed it, and everybody that I recommended it to has come back to me and also said they really enjoyed it.
So I think you're going to talk about great summer reads next.
So why I think this book in particular makes a great summer read is because of all the reasons I mentioned earlier, basically. So there's a lot going on in this book, lots to keep you interested and turning those pages. And what I think makes a good summer read in general is that you need a gripping storyline, something that's going to keep you interested throughout, which I totally think The Girl in the Red Coat has. I was really impressed with that. I also think that you need something that isn't too heavy. You don't want to depress yourself with something miserable when you're on holiday. So although this is a terrible tale of abduction, it's not going into too much sort of political things and things like that. They're going to, well, they'd confuse me at least. I also think that you need something that you can put down and come back to as a summer read as well, and it just needs to be something light and enjoyable and gripping and something that's going to really keep you going, which is totally what I thought this book had. And I was really impressed with it. Even I read it actually before, I read it earlier this year. I think I read it in like March or April, and as I was reading it, I was like, this would totally make a great summer read. And just everyone, I get quite a lot of people asking me for recommendations, particularly at this time of year when people are going on holiday, and this is the top of the list that I've been recommending people. So last year I was recommending to everybody The Girl on the Train by Paula Hawkins, and this year I've been recommending The Girl in the Red Coat by Kate Hamer. So if you enjoyed The Girl on the Train by Paula Hawkins, then I really think that this would be a great book for you to read over the summer.
So I think you're going to go over other good summer reads.
Yeah, so I've got a few here, some that I've read and some that I haven't. And also, I just wanted to touch briefly on Zoella's book club, which I'll go into a bit later on. So first, two that I've sort of pulled out myself that I feel are similar to this book, The Girl in the Red Coat by Kate Hamer. The first one is one I haven't read. It's called In a Dark, Dark Wood by Ruth Ware. I haven't read this, as I said, but it's about a woman who gets invited on a hen do of somebody she used to go to school with, and she hasn't spoken to in many, many years. And this hen do takes place in a house in a dark, dark wood, and it's very like creepy and atmospheric, and it's supposed to be really, really like gripping and like twisty and turny, which I think totally the Girl in the Red Coat was. Another book that I've just read is a book called You by Caroline Kepnes, which is also a thriller. This book was unlike anything I'd ever read before, and I really, really thought it was great. So You is about a chap called Joe who works in a bookshop in America, a bookstore, and falls in love with a girl called Beck who comes into the bookstore one day. So the whole book is told in second person, which is something that I totally haven't experienced before. So the whole book is like you walked into the bookstore and you were looking at these books, and so it was really, really jarring to get into, but very, very like you feel really involved in it because it's like he's telling you about it, and it's just very strange. And that was very, very gripping. I think that would make a brilliant summer. I read that when I went on holiday a couple of weeks ago to Ireland. I was reading it on the plane. I couldn't put it down. I mentioned earlier that I'd be touching on Zoella's book club. So Zoella, I'm sure everybody in the world has heard of Zoella. Zoella is a YouTuber who basically runs sort of like beauty and lifestyle videos on her YouTube channel. But she's recently started her own book club in with W.H. Smith, and she has recommended 8 sort of young adult and contemporary women's fiction reads, and I was just looking at them today, and I think I've read 4 of them, and I think they would all make great summer reads as well. So I'll go through the ones I haven't read first, and then I can just touch briefly on the ones that I have read. So within there, the 8 titles are All the Bright Places by Jennifer Niven, which I've got at home and I've heard is really, really good. Beautiful Broken Things by Sarah Barnard, The Potion Diaries by Amy Allwood, and The Sky is Everywhere by Jandy Nelson. Then the 4 books I have read are We Were Liars by E. Lockhart, which is about a family that go away to a sort of like island in the Hamptons in the US, and they're a very privileged family, but something's not quite as it seems. And I think that would make it's set in the summer, set on the beach and things like that. So I think that would make a great summer read. Everything by Nicola Yoon is a YA book that I read last year about a girl who is allergic to everything, and she sort of lives in a bubble. I think I was very impressed with that as a YA book, because I think it sort of everyone can enjoy it. I recommended it to my mum, and my mum really, really enjoyed it too, as well as myself, and I know younger readers love it too. Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell is a book about a girl who writes fan fiction about a series that is likened to Harry Potter. So it's a series called Simon Snow, and she writes fan fiction about that, and that's very cute as well. I really enjoyed that. And then Billy and Me by Giovanna Fletcher, who is Tom Fletcher from McFly's wife. She's very popular on YouTube as well. That's a sort of like chick lit book about two people that fall in love and things like that. But all of those 8 titles I think would make really, really great summer reads for people who want something a bit easier to get on with as well.
We're talking to Lauren. It's all part of our regular book club book review. And I think you're going to update us how your YouTube channel's going, because I think it's been going quite well.
It has been going rather well. So I have a YouTube channel, which is www.youtube.com/Lauren and the Books, where I talk primarily about books, but a few other things sneak in there. Most recently, my videos that I've been putting out there are the best books of 2016 so far. So as it's halfway through the year, at the end of the year, I always like to do a wrap up of my top 10 books of the year. So I've just got halfway through, and I thought I'd pick 5. I actually picked 7 because I had a few problems picking some of my favourites. I've also done a video on books I've read in one sitting. So I was doing a previous video, and I said to some of my viewers, if they've got any books that any videos that they'd like me to do, then please let me know if there's any you would like me to do. And one of my viewers said, I'd love for you to do a video on books you've read in one sitting. So I did that, which was very enjoyable. And most recently, I've been talking also about the books that I read in May. So in my May wrap-up video, I actually read 18 books in May, so which is really good going, and spent a video talking about what I read in May. It was a 25-minute long video, so only watch that if you've got some time on your hands. Coming up, it is Independent Bookshop Week next week, meaning that everybody should go to their local independent bookshop, which unfortunately we don't have one on Sheppey, and buy some books there. So tonight I'm going to be filming my video for the Independent Book Week tag, which will be asking me a few questions about my favourite independent bookshops, etc. And that will be out on Wednesday.
And now, hopefully, Lauren's going to tell us what our next book is.
Yeah, so the next time I'm here will be Monday the 15th of August at 8 o'clock. And we're going to be discussing a book called The Master of Knots by Massimo Carlotto. So this might be a book that nobody's heard of. I hadn't heard of it. But we're going to be talking in general about translated fiction. So recently, the Man Booker International Prize took place, where a book that is translated from its original language into the English is a prize that's given, and the book that won was a book called The Vegetarian by Han Kang, which is my favourite book of the year so far. I absolutely adored it. But I thought this would be a really great time to read some books that aren't like originally written in English, and this is a genre called Italian noir, which is a bit like, I'm sure you've heard of Nordic noir, which is sort of like Scandinavian writers who write murder mysteries and things like that. Joan Nesbo is a very, very famous one of them, and the books that are I've forgotten what they're called now. The girl who kicked the hornet's nest and things like that. That's Nordic noir. So this is a new genre called Mediterranean or Italian noir. So the book is called The Master of Knots by Massimo Carlotto. I've got an absolutely gorgeous edition of it here, published by Europa. They make amazing books, and it's a yellow cover, and I love yellow covers. But I will just read you the blurb at the beginning. A woman has gone missing. Her husband, too ashamed to admit to the police that he and his wife were part of a ring of sexual adventurers that organised sadomasochistic orgies, turned again instead to the alligator. Marco Buratti, aka the alligator, enters a depraved demi-world where ferocious deviants prey upon lonely victims. But the savagery of this world is only the first dark surprise the investigation holds in store for the alligator. Encountering such violence and desperation triggers memories of his time in prison. And while the unwritten rule of ex-cons is that you must never talk about your experiences behind bars, the alligator and his 2 long-time associates, Max the Memory and Beniamino Rossini, are forced to confront demons they thought long buried. So that is the book we will be talking about next time on the 15th of August at 8 o'clock. It is called The Master of Knots by Massimo Carlotto. You can contact me in the meantime if you wish to about the book or about anything to do with books via my email, which is laurenandthebooks@gmail.com. I'm also on Twitter, which is @LaurenTheBooks, and Instagram, which is @LaurenandTheBooks, and confusingly back to Snapchat, which I've recently joined, which is Lauren the Books. And as I mentioned earlier, my YouTube channel is www.youtube.com/LaurenandTheBooks.
Lauren, as always, thank you very much for coming along, and we look forward to seeing you next time.
Yeah, I can't wait. Looking forward to it.